Well, this is embarrassing. I'm sure right here I was saying some wonderful things about what I'm going to do in this episode, talking about the back of the seats and the headliner and all these wonderful things. But I happened to cut my head off in this shot. So without further ado, here it is, episode 2 of the H20i 2017 for $2,017 challenge. Let's start with the interior. The back of this car is absolutely filthy with the seats falling off. You have exposed wiring, and the sunroof shade, it drops down little disgusting bits of foam on your head while you're driving around. And of course the headliner is drooping all over the back seat. There's little dirt and hair and dust and leaves and all sorts of little stuff all over the floor and in the seats, and overall it's just gross. So before I went exploring around on the inside, I cleaned everything out and vacuumed out the carpet and the seats. The next step was to glue the carpet onto the back of the seats. The first step was to remove the old glue off the back. I did a tandem sandpaper and vacuum method to scuff up the plastic and remove the hardened glue dust all at the same time. After doing this for about 5 minutes, then it was time to glue the carpet back onto the back of the seats. Alright, so on my shelf of stuff here, I should have 3M super adhesive. Spray this on, wait 4 minutes, and then you push the surfaces together. It says first there, make sure that the surfaces are clean and dry. Kind of how this works is it's a thin liquid when you first spray it out. Push the two pieces together, this stuff kind of gets tacky and it sticks everything together. So yeah, that's what we're going to use on the Passat. Per the instructions on the can, I applied a strong coat to both surfaces being glued. You really can't do too much here to a certain extent, so get a nice thick coat of glue on both surfaces. Then you wait about 4 minutes and you come back and push the carpet onto the back of the seat and then allow it to dry. In my case, I used some boards and some weights. These are the old set of wheels off of my Golf, just to kind of press the two surfaces together and let it hold and dry for about an hour. Now that I have the seats done, the next step was removing the headliner. Every car here is going to be different, but basically you just have to remove everything that is attached to the ceiling. In my case, the handles had these little tabs that you flip back, and there's a screw on the inside there, and then once you remove it, you just pull the handle and it pops right out. Next is removing the sun visors and the little clips from the front of the car. In my case, it had this little 2-pin connector. You just kind of have to wiggle it and figure out how to get it out. Every car is going to be different, but mine had this little spring clip, and then you just pull it and remove it. After that, remove the A, B, and C pillar trim. On these, you just kind of pull it, and it'll pop out of those little holes and those rivets in the side. Once you've done that, then the headliner should all kind of fall down, and it's ready to be removed. The only thing left holding it up will be the trim pieces and the rubber gasket that goes around the door to seal it. Once you have the headliner drop down, make sure everything is clean and clear from the top of the car. In my case, the wiring harness for the lights was attached, hot glued to the top of the sunroof, so I had to make sure to remove that. Once you have everything free, then you should be ready to pull it out of the car. Did I mention that it was absolutely disgusting in here? There was leaves and all sorts of junk on top of the headliner. Once you've wiggled the headliner out, it's time to pull off the old fabric. In my case, I opted to wear some gloves and a mask for this step. Just grab underneath an edge and start peeling it off. It's probably old and fragile, so it'll come off in multiple pieces and might kind of shred or fall apart on you, but just peel it off, get all the fabric off, and then you're ready to start scraping the foam. In my case, I opted to use a garden shovel and a razor blade, but I later figured out that simply rubbing it with a rubber glove was much easier to get it off. This stuff gets everywhere, so do it in an area where your wife or your girlfriend won't get mad at you for having dust all over the place. Next, I installed the sunroof cover fabric. In this, I had already cleaned off the panel, so it was ready to go. You lay out the fabric of your choice over the panel and make sure the pattern is centered and even, and then you cut off the excess around the edges, leaving about 4 to 6 inches so it's easy to grab onto and maneuver once you have glue on the piece. I went outside and sprayed the glue all over the panel and basically did the same as I did with the back seats. And yes, I did put the cardboard down to protect the table. Then you grab your fabric and drape it across the panel. Don't worry too much at first if it isn't perfectly straight, because you'll have a little bit of time to pull it up and kind of reset the pattern. Just pull up the edges and straighten it, and then once it is straight, you push it down to get the glue to set. I started in the middle and gradually worked my way out to the edge. I recommend trying a small piece first because it does get much harder once you go full scale with the actual headliner. We're back outside with the headliner. Make sure it's clean and free of all debris, and then you're ready to set up the fabric and glue it down. So I've got all the material sanded down and sanded off at the bottom of the headliner. So the next step is to apply the material. I have this here, it's all rolled up, and I'm going to be starting from the simple end of the headliner here and gradually unfolding it as I go. That way I don't have to stretch it out across all of the headliner and try and get it straight. It'll hopefully make it a lot easier to keep it level and not get any creases. And as I go, there's some areas where the door handles and the lights and the sunroof are, and that'll get more complicated, but I'll have it set down nice and tight on this end first. So that will help it be a little bit easier to get it to stick and to get it to lay down straight, to have a solid foundation here, and then gradually to be able to stretch it towards that other end. I'm using a Permatex heavy duty headliner and carpet adhesive, which is a heavy duty glue. It has similar settings to what I've used for the back of the seats and for the actual sunroof sliding piece as well. So I got this in particular because it was on sale, and the 3M stuff that I used before was about twice as much. So $12 versus $25 is kind of a no-brainer, so here we go. When you spray the glue, it naturally comes out of the can in this zigzag kind of pattern. Get a nice solid layer of glue all over the headliner backing and then spray the fabric. It's very similar to how I did with the seats. You give it a couple minutes to get kind of sticky, and then you press it down. Again, same as the sunroof shade. It might be kind of crooked at first, but don't panic. Just lift it up and smooth out the bumps. Start from the middle and work your way outward. It does get more complicated as you try and get into the handles and the mirror areas, but try and stretch out the material and just press it down into the grooves. You might end up with a couple little bumps, but for me, that was okay. You'll have the excess material over the edge of the headliner. Trim this to about 1 inch and then fold it over and glue it on the back. The final step for me was fixing the sunroof, and what do you know, there were leaves and acorns and pine needles all over the place. The first step is to scrape and blow out as much as you can. You can also use a little pick or a screwdriver to help get some of the stuff out. So for this part, I'm using an old toothbrush and reaching up inside of the rails here to clean out some of this gunk. You can see just the dirt and debris that's up in there. It's hard to do with one hand, but just cleaning all that stuff out and scraping it and making sure to get kind of up underneath the rails to get it all cleaned out. So you can see here's kind of a clean section, and then dirty, and all of that dirt and gunk and stuff that's up in here can prevent the sunroof from sliding as it should. So you've got to clean all that stuff out. It was helpful to clean out the sunroof in 2 steps with the toothbrush. First, I used the dry brush to get out as much dirt and dust as possible, and then blew it out. Next, I used a lightly oiled or greased toothbrush to help get out any remaining dust, and also to help lubricate the tracks so that the sunroof can slide how it's supposed to. I reinstalled the sunroof assembly and shade, and next was the headliner. You gradually just slide it in and get it generally lined up. I also glued back the lighting harness to the top of the headliner panel, and from here it's basically the reverse of the removal. You put back in the handles, the panels, and the lights, and you're good to go. And now for the finished results. Overall, I think it looks so good, definitely so much better than previously. It matches the interior very well. I think that the plaid is a nice accent, and everything fits and it functions as it should. Got my sunroof to work again, which is really nice. And look, I have some hatch support so that it isn't falling on my head anymore. Very good. The car's driving like a dream with a fresh tank of gas, check engine light and everything. And I got some upcoming surprises for you, but I don't want to reveal too much. Here's just a quick little teaser. We also have someone else joining the challenge. It's my buddy Mark up in College Station. He's got a lot of work to go, but we think he's going to make it. See you next time.